So we're here today to talk about pre-constructions, and I think the sort of looming question around that most people are trying to answer is it worth it? Is it worth the money, the time, and the effort as a client or as a homeowner or anyone else on the team?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the other option?
I like that framing a lot. What's the other option?
The other option would be complete failure.
Yeah.
And
Come in cold, not know what you're doing.
change orders, nightmares.
I mean, I've worked for that builder.
Okay.
I have been a carpenter from all the way from the very bottom of my career to, being a project manager effectively. And I've worked for builders who basically walk a job site, do a layout, and start the project. And they might confirm some colors, some of those things, but if you guys aren't aware, that is, from my perspective, how 50+% of the industry runs.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because interior design, that is our job, and architecture as well, of you're diving into the plans, you're unearthing what are the project goals, what are we trying to achieve here, and then the builder gets brought in with a fully set plans to go through. So I guess, from my experience, I've never done it any other way.
Yeah.
So this is the only way that makes sense to me. How would you know what your plan is if you haven't really sat down and thought through the variables?
I think that's often the feeling I got. What is the plan?
Yeah.
That's a very real thing. So, I mean, the short answer, like you said, Paul, is yes. I would also say that, like you're kind of naming, Liz, pre-constructions avoid change orders, they avoid unnecessary delays, they avoid confusion between trade partners and the homeowner, and they are a great context in which you can sort of build that trust. Yep. Both from the design side of things, but also from this is how we're going to implement this, and this is how we want it to look side of things, right? I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from the design point of view, it's not pre-job, it's the job.
Correct, yeah. That's why I was like, I don't know any other way.
Yes.
That's our whole role is, setting the plans for the builder to be able to have success.
Yeah.
And the clients like the process. I think that everybody likes being listened to, and a good designer listens. They pay attention, of course, to the budget. Yeah. And working with a contractor early on is very beneficial because then we know what the capabilities are. We can work together. And so any design really is problem solving, but maybe even before that, it's problem seeking. And so we're searching out any of the issues that might be on the site and conquering the fundamental issues first and going from there. And you can't do that shooting from the hip. There's so much integrated with the whole big picture down to the minutia. Yeah. This project that we just completed was so fantastic because I think we paid great attention to detail. You did some great drawings. And the scale we chose was a larger scale, so it showed almost every tile. Yeah. And that anticipates any problems, so that again, it's problem seeking, problem solving. Then you do it in a beautiful way with a talented team, and you're good to go.
Yeah. I think even actually, to your point, the fact that we spent the time to do that, unfortunately, there's been some delays in this project, but the interactions with the client as a result have been so gracious, so understanding, because we share that sort of common goal of this is where we're going. And we're not gonna compromise that or let a little delay prevent us from getting there. We share that goal. It's been very reassuring to hop on the phone when a client rightfully could be, irritated or upset or whatever. And because we've sort of laid this groundwork of trust, right? Yes. It's been a very gracious response. You've been around for some of those frustrations.
Yeah. Every project has them. You'll never get away from it. But again, I think laying the foundation of the client being listened to, we don't provide just one option. There's 3, 4, A, B, C of 3 and 4, to really make sure that we're achieving, what the client has asked for. And I think stepping back, and they might say, we want this. And then as designers, we step back and say, okay, well, this is actually your problem, and this is a different way to solve it. So yeah, I think going through those iterations, going through the detailing, going through the planning, they're hearing every conversation. The client is hearing every conversation, so they know what we're trying to achieve.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it also avoids buyer's remorse. I mean, yeah.
There you go.
This is a proven process.
Yeah.
And if you've done your homework, the answers come easy.
Yes. Yeah, there's like a guidebook for your journey, like a roadmap of when decisions come up. Like we had certain tiles on site that we had to pivot. They weren't in stock, so we went to a shorter option, and that those little, we can stay within this guidebook of what the right answer is when problems come up.
I like that. That's good. So if you're, let's just you guys definitely swim in design world, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. But let's just say, because I run into this all the time. Clients ask me, what is a pre-construction? There is actually a good, at least from the client side of thing, if you've never built a house or you've never hired a builder before, or an architect or a designer, you might not know what a pre-construction is, just candidly. So could we try and define that for a minute for folks out there who might be like, pre-construction, okay, yeah, it's design, but what else? What are the fundamentals of a pre-construction?
So I guess from our scope as architects and designers, that would start with schematic design and go through a classic architectural approach of schematic, concept design, through design development, construction documentation, and then construction administration. So that's an overview of what an architectural design process looks like. So I would say when we work together, pre-construction is all of that working together with the builder, alongside the builder, which I think is helpful too, because as we're weighing up options of different floor plans in concept design, we're getting real-time advice on cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cost and just design constraints too with existing site conditions.
Yep. Yeah, I probably have a pretty good guess at what's behind that wall. Especially if it's in that era that I'm comfortable with, if it's in an older home, and I have I've seen a few of these homes that have multiple remodels. My guess peek behind the curtain might be better. Yeah. Paul, how would you define a pre-construction?
Just to add to these phases you just mentioned, in the preliminary, the schematic design phase, I think we did a nice job getting to know the client's wishes. And that's programming. You really have to kind of list out what they want, how many people it needs to support, how often this space is going to be used, where the sun is. I remember we were even looking at how the views are through the window, and verifying. Yes, it's really important. Yes. And I think that's why the client really is happy, if I may say so, because we really took a lot of time to get to know what the program was, what we needed to do. And then when you arrive, you have arrived. I've worked with some designs, and probably this relates to these builders. It's like, well, how do you know if you're really done or if you're really happy with the project if you haven't really defined the issues and the way you're going, mapped out a plan, so you can get from point A to point B and know that you're done successfully.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. One of the most discouraging parts of my career is when I reached finally kind of reached that role as a lead carpenter, where you still have a tool belt on 95% of the day, and that's your job. So you're keeping carpenters running, and you're ideally completing some tasks yourself. You're also answering questions for subcontractors, but you also start to have this client interaction, to the point where, this is me hired for another builder, where the builder is starting to introduce me before work starts, right? And so let's say by 50% of the way through the project, I know the kids' names, I know the pets, I know their routines, I know when they're coming and going, they know who I am, if I have kids, right? You have a relationship with them. And we would reach this point inevitably where either the allowances weren't adequate to what the client wanted, or there was some confusion or communication breakdown about what the goals were. right? Like you named. And I remember after doing this for this particular builder for a couple of years, I reached this point where I was like, I love like the work that we do, and a lot of it is like at a standard that I'm for the most part pretty happy with. But I hate that by the time we've reached the 70 to 90% mark, the client hates us. Because
I've seen that
because
before.
we're over budget.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting what they thought they were getting, right? Because there wasn't this sort of trust and this mutual goal established, we're just sort of like living in a construction zone, and when is it going to end?
Yeah.
Well, and what happens too when you don't have a good plan is most of the changes and most of the communication is we need to find more money, or we need to pull out scope. Like
Yes,
those,
we need
that's
to
where the
find more
frustration. Yeah,
money.
like if you don't have a
Exactly.
good plan, that ultimately you're going to either be pulling back or you're going to be paying more, and you're losing out on the full scope if there's not a good plan in place and an expectation set, I should say too.
100%.
So true.
Yeah. And that's where the frustration builds with the builder who's the designers aren't the ones on site every day. The architects aren't the ones on site every day. It's the builder that's in the home. It's very personal. It's a very personal process. So,
Well, that's a good point. It's very personal. For a lot of clients in the residential world, it's the one lifetime project. They're building to live in this place until they die, and so this is very important to them, and to turn something that's so important to them into a baton death march, because you can't just hire some good architect and interior designer. Right. It's like, why are you turning something that is a wonderful milestone in someone's life that they've saved up for, and turning it into just dread and hatred, pain, exactly.
Suffering.
Come on.
Yeah. Or stress. A lot of stress.
A lot of stress.
I think it's understandably a very stressful thing. It's, for most of us, it's the most expensive asset we'll ever own, is to own a home. Yeah. And to think that you've saved, like you said, Paul, for years, and then that process becomes miserable.
can be.
Don't want to be a part of it. That's honestly a big part of what, like that season of my life fueled me to go, and it gave me the ambition to go like, I need to own. I have to own the company so I can decide that I'm not going to do it this way anymore. Yeah. I'm not going to work for this. I'm not going to work for this ex-builder who is okay with basically under-promise or over-promising, so that he can land the job, right? And then sort of allowancing and change ordering to death the client's wishes. Yeah. That's why so many people hate contractors.
Yeah. That has been, having worked abroad for a long time and coming back to the US, I have noticed that the relationships feel generally, not here, but generally feel a bit more fingers pointed at who's at fault. Who really combative, where I think a team, when we all come together and the trade partners all come in together, we're all working for the client. There's like a built goal, and everyone's on the same page. Or I found this process to feel that way, that it's not Paul's drawings or Liz's drawings, it's our team's drawings that we're all working towards, like this end goal for the client.
One other thing I'd like to add too is that I like how we tested the design ahead of time. So again, we're not going to be wasting anybody's money. We're able to conquer any problems on paper. And I know Joe says this, it's a lot cheaper to make a change on paper than it is to do it after it's built, right? Yeah. So
with a hammer and nails or with masonry or tile. Yeah.
That's right. And we actually tested the design ahead of time, showing the clients options in 3D with photoreal perspectives of the space, and they can see ahead of time what they're going to get. And you verify that that's what they want, everybody's happier.
Yeah, I found the 3D process interesting because it's taken a little bit of, in a great way, it's taken the mystery out of the final result, where when I go to site and it's done, I'm like, well, I've been here. I've seen this. I've already walked through here. So yeah, that 3D process is really, there's obviously differences in digital versus real, but you do get a real sense of what the space is going to feel like and look like. I think to add on to that as well, I know with this particular bathroom remodel, once everything was demoed, you actually drew out on the floor, okay, here's where the toilet sits, here's where the sink sits, here's where the wall sits. And the client was able to walk the space pulled back to get a sense for scale as well, because sometimes drawings, it's hard to sense how big something is. So I think that those checkpoints along the way to get sign off and just get their client buy-in along the process is just everyone's on the same page.
And then when you got a talented team like you always have,
Thanks, Paul.
You can shoot from the hip when something unpredicted occurs. You know.
Actually, to that point, really the only major thing that we changed in this project that you're referencing is the swing of the pocket door.
Yeah. And the location of the pocket door.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. We changed where that pocket door sat in the wall because it made more sense for the flow of the space. But that's hard to feel when it's two small rooms becoming one bigger room. Even the renderings didn't make that obvious to us.
Again, and those are those on-site checkpoints that I think made it really clear that that was the right choice.
Yeah.
And two, when we were deciding, I think there were 2 locations, then we could actually go to site and you took videos of it. So the client could, we could evaluate it from a builder perspective, from the design perspective of, okay, well, this is actually a great win because this reduces sight lines into the bathroom and we get more natural daylight coming through. So there was a few wins that came out of that decision.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've covered what a pre-construction is. If I was going to try and summarize that a little bit, it's the design bidding phase of a project. Ideally, it clarifies what is the project, what are our shared goals, the budget, what are the costs, and it helps us kind of avoid unforeseen pitfalls and ideally gets us to like 90% of selections. Maybe the paint hasn't been chosen, but tile, we know what the tile is, we know what the countertop is, we know what the cabinetry is, etc. I think moving on from there, I'd like to talk about, there's just a couple of bullet points I want to hit. So I'll give you all those. Does my project require a pre-construction? Who should be involved in a pre-construction? Who should run the pre-construction? And what should it cost? So let's name some projects that don't require pre-con, and then we'll name some projects that do.
I'm like, all of them require pre-con. If you're involved, that's basically pre-con. Bathroom renovations, kitchen renovations, anything where you're having anything built, I'd say you'd want to just make sure that you're considering what is the program, what are the goals. If it's a small project like a cabinet upgrade, it might be a sit down with the builder, but anything that requires shifting of walls, reconfiguration, I would bring in a designer, an architect.
Paul, can you think of any projects that don't require pre-construction? This is fascinating. I'm learning a ton right now.
Well, from your perspective, you're bringing designers into your world, whereas a lot of times designers bring the builder into our world. So it can work both ways, but I personally enjoy design from the big scale planning of, city planning where you got to know city ordinances and the law, right. Down to a house and the structure, down to a space, down to the finishes, which I think you did such a great job choosing all the tile. It's from all the way from big picture to little picture. It's a fascinating profession, and we can help the builder all the way from big down to small. I think this might be the first time we might disagree on something. I'm curious. So, and this would be good. I would actually love if you guys disagreed with me, but I actually think that a project like, for example, a siding project does not necessarily require pre-construction. Obviously these are from my perspective. I would say a project like a bathroom retouch is what I might call it, which is simply we're going to pick a new cabinet and a countertop. We're not moving any plumbing fixtures. We're not moving tile. Maybe we're changing some millwork, paint, maybe wallpaper. I can understand why you would want to draw that, but I also think for me there is a client who wants to facelift a space, but realistically, let's say that project is a $10,000 to $15,000 project. Is there really that much budget to give to design? Disagree with me.
Well, what I'm wondering then, when are selections made? when is the siding selected? When is the tile, even if you're just refreshing, when is the tile selected? When is all the things that come along with the project?
So
all the
usually
decisions
we
that need
do
to
that.
get made.
Frankly, that would so to be fair, you're right, there is some pre-construction in that sense. But oftentimes it's to match existing at that point in the siding application. Or like if we're doing an exterior restoration where we're repairing a 100-year-old, like we've got one going right now where there's cool rafter tails or modillions coming out the side of the building, blah, blah, blah. Most of what we're doing is taking out rotten pieces and replacing them.
I think that's fair enough, and a lot of it'll depend on the client as well. But I still feel like one initial meeting to bring in designers just to look for problems. Again, problem seeking. For example, I worked on a project and they had no idea they had asbestos shingles. It's like that is a big problem.
Huge problem.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, and at that point, do you stop and say, okay, is our project what we thought our project was? If we're going to take these off, is there now a new opportunity that we can explore? Is that what happened?
yeah, actually, the client ended up ripping it all off, and then you have to advise them on new siding types and what they could go with. And they were very green-minded, which I think is fantastic when you don't have to force that at all. I mean, they wanted that. In this project, it was kind of cool. Speaking of green design, you brought in this pre-made piece that you guys sought out, and basically, it was an old dining room buffet that had been built in a really nice old home. Somebody saved it. You guys found it, repurposed it into a bathroom remodel. That's genius. And it also, it looks great. It saved them a lot of money, and it saved a beautiful piece of work from going straight into a landfill. It's just, why not?
Well, and not only that too, that kind of character and soul cannot be manufactured. You can't make something new that feels old. You can only find those pieces and bring them into a home.
That's good. I actually like that we disagreed on that. I think we could talk more about that, but we'll move on. Because I think it's interesting from your guys' perspective that the bathroom retouch really probably should have a designer. The siding project probably should have an architect or a designer. Like, I think that's
and to
interesting.
that point too, if that's a family that was considering, let's say we need to replace all of this and we found out we had asbestos, did we have a family remodel an extension that we had in the back of our minds, and do we do that now because it makes sense because the siding's already off? So I think that's where, okay, let's step back, do a bird's eye view of, is this really the project we thought the project was, or has something else forced our hand? Yeah.
For better.
For better. Yeah.
And I'd try my best to notice those things. I take a good amount of burden onto myself in those applications to know what mineral siding, asbestos siding really looks like and be able to tell the difference, and ideally asbestos tiles in the floor. But I'm not perfect, I miss things. That's a really great argument for a designer or an architect or another person involved in that, even if your pre-construction is like $500, you know? That's great. We can continue it later. Who should be involved in a pre-construction?
Again, I think it depends on the project. Depends on the project scale. I know we're working on a small mudroom and fireplace renovation where, not as many built components, so more of an interior designer builder approach, where there's some that might be more architecturally minded. So again, I think it depends on the project scope and what it is for who's involved.
So then my question would be what are the indicators of when you need an architect, when you need a designer, when you need an engineer, right? Just to we all know what a pre-construction is or what we think of it is, but if you don't know what the work is that an architect does or what an engineer does as a client or a homeowner, and you're considering hiring a builder or hiring a firm to help you make a decision about your house, what do those individuals do, and when do I need them as a homeowner, or do you just go hire a good builder?
I think if you are willing to hire a professional for just an hour, a lot of professionals will have a free consultation, but just hire a professional for an hour and let them come in to see if they see any issues, again, with the problem seeking. And then they can advise you of whether you need a structural engineer or any kind of, and also the city has their own requirements. So, if there's On residential projects, professional architect or engineer is not required, but it's often a good idea, especially in these older homes that are so under-structured. So somebody that has not only the experience in projects like that, but also knowledge of the local permit requirements. Sometimes you don't have a choice as a homeowner. You got to bring in a professional.
Yep. I'll add to that. I think for me, I think of it a lot of in terms of like, are we resizing or changing openings? Are there structural elements? If so, how many? So, for example, we've got a project coming up where we're adding a porch door. I don't think that I need an architect to do that, but I do need an engineer, right? And I need to be able, and fortunately I work with an engineer who's willing to do some minimal drawings, right? And I know his engineering's good. He's very collaborative. Like, I can push back and go like, do I really need it to be like that? Or what if I want to make it a triple so I can fit the right? Those sorts of conversations. I would say that if you're doing a bathroom retouch, but you know you're going to replace tile and you know you're going to replace cabinets, I'm probably not going to go to an architect in that case. I'm going to defer to a designer, or like our living room project that we have going right now. Like, I don't think that's the best use of an architect's time necessarily. Right. If you have really complicated moldings and you're doing structural changes, or there's more in play, or if you're changing layout especially, then that's when I start to go, we need an architect for this, right? Because an architect will do some of the work of an engineer potentially, depending on what it is. They'll do some of the work of a designer, but most importantly, they'll oversee that balance of design and layout and meeting city requirements and capturing the goals of the homeowner in that process, right?
Yes, and an architect can help a lot with coordination ahead of time, getting the electrician, all the lighting worked out, all the HVAC worked out ahead of time, saves everybody a lot of fuss and muss. And I kind of like it when architects rely more, I kind of like it when contractors rely more on the architects, because we can do a lot of your homework and make your job easier. There you go.
Yeah, I like that, yeah. Truly, yeah, it's again having like a clear roadmap that when trade partners come in on site, they know, okay, this is where the switches are, this is where, and they can, obviously it's a negotiation, it's a conversation of is that the best option, but someone has already laid and done the groundwork for them.
I like that too as a builder, because a part of my pre-construction is usually the bidding phase where I will walk it with the trade partners, right? And yes, a rough layout helps. And like, for example, my electrician, if it's simple, we don't do an electrical plan. He'll sketch something on the drawing. So then it's like we're referencing that, right? So there's levels to all of it, but I prefer to have more data to start with so that they can ask, in the same way that you might discover there's asbestos somewhere that you were not hoping for it. When you do the work, especially if it's an architect or a designer, of an elevation or a schematic for where you want the HVAC to go, when you do that walkthrough with someone who knows their trade really well, they'll find that thing before you're underway if it's visible, right? You're just eliminating more and more question marks and getting closer and closer to understanding the common goal, right? Whereas if you're just shooting from the hip, that's what you're doing. You're shooting from the hip. And they might not notice that thing about, hey, there's a drop down in that ceiling that's actually going to be directly in the path of our proposed HVAC or of our proposed whatever, right? Or where I thought I was going to be able to hide plumbing. So I think those are all really great things. Last thing on that, like, I think a builder should be involved in most pre-constructions. I don't have a bias, but
builders.
No bias whatsoever, yeah.
I think they are very rarely involved, and that's why I'm saying that. No. I think not enough of them are involved and take the time to do that. But
usually the earlier you can start collaborating, the better the project's going to be.
Yeah, I've done it, traditional contract where the architect is interviewing potential builders and they come into the project once the drawings are done. And I've done it the other way, where the builder is brought in from the very beginning. And yeah, it's a more clear path to getting the project finished.
Yep. You've also started developing that relationship right away.
Exactly, yeah, the trust, yeah.
I like that too, because instead of it being traditionally at this point, you do a pre-construction and it goes out to bid. Well, then you're bidding on what? You're bidding on a number, right? That's what the homeowner or the client or whoever it is comparing. like ultimately they're going off of 2 to 6 meetings, depending on what level, what budget, what your budget is, and you're deciding who you're going to work with primarily because of the numbers or the details in their bids. That doesn't tell you a lot about like what they're going to do when they enter your home. Are they going to be the sort of person who lets your dog out or cares if your dog is let out, right? All of those sort of more personal things. Or like, is this a person you feel like you can communicate well with and you're heard, right? As a homeowner or client. Does this builder care about my project even, right? All right, so we've kind of covered who should be in a pre-construction. Who should run the pre-construction?
Yeah. Truly. No, I think it's been an interesting process, again, having worked traditional contracts versus this way. And it's been nice to, again, have that partner from the very beginning. You've been talking to the client, you've interviewed them, you know what their goals are. We get brought on knowing the goals, but not having really investigated the issues. So we're coming in with just enough information to ask the right questions. It's been a very, very easy process this way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I love that you guys think that I should run it, of course.
Yes, yeah, and I don't think you're a typical contractor, frankly. I think there's a lot of,
Very true.
well, to be fair, there's a lot of architects that don't like people, but I think there are also builders that are just not really good around people. And they're not front sales people. They're the kind of people that just want to get the job done. So you have to bring on your team somebody who's got the personality for it to be the face for the meetings or to run things and to keep the client up to date with everything.
Yeah. That's interesting because I felt like our process was so collaborative that I felt like we each took a turn running different phases of, like, especially early, like we're leaning on you. You're running the meetings, right? As an architect, we're working with layout, we're changing the structure, we're sort of looking to, especially on our projects typically, it's like, what's the historic precedence? Can we pull anything in so that this thing, even though it's new, it feels like it's always been here? What can we do, right? We're starting that conversation there, and we're gonna lean on you for the first, whatever it might be, 2 to 5 meetings, depending on the project and the client. And then we're gonna sort of get a little more nitty gritty after we understand what we think is the best layout, and we're gonna hand it off to you, and we're gonna lean on you to go, what's the right, elevations? What does this look like as we move sort of from 2D to 3D? Right. And what does that feel like? And I'll be there sort of cheerleading and interjecting the whole way. But in a lot of ways, I feel like we all take a turn leading those things. Yeah. Ideally.
Yeah, and it's a collaborative process. I think, like, with this project, there were things that you noticed early on that I incorporated into the design, and you as well. So it's not that each of us own it, but that we're always working together through each meeting. It's a team. It's a group effort. It's a group project.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do one with an engineer too. I think that'd be fun. Somebody to push back. That way we can have a little more pushback on why we think it warrants this big of a structural member, or why can't I use wood instead of engineered lumber, like we've done for thousands of years before there was building code. Great. Well, that one was pretty easy. Feels like in an ideal world, I do all the vetting, and we bring you into the project. You guys like that model? Okay, I'm happy to hear that. I thought for sure you guys were going to be like, I think that and maybe here's another way to think about it. Is there a kind of project where you think it should start with an architect or a designer rather than with a builder, where you guys would prefer to bring the work and bring the team in?
I think a brand new build home, where it's really truly about a 100%. Brand new design. Then you want an architect first. You want to make sure you found the right architect partner so that you can design it from the ground up the way you want it, and then bring the builder in alongside to make sure it's buildable. But yeah, I think new build, I would definitely start with an architect.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll develop the drawings up to about the design development phase, where things are sort of quantified and maybe qualified in terms of what things are. And then a general contractor at that point can be brought in, especially with their design cost knowledge for estimating. So, but it's always great to have the whole team together as early as possible. And the key thing is, I think, I liked at the beginning of our project, you basically said you do not tolerate any kind of disrespect on the team. And I thought that really laid a groundwork where we all could work positively together. And that also made it so that if somebody has an idea, you can build upon it instead of just tearing it down. And all my success was your success was your success.
Correct. We try our best to bring that into the construction phase too, to have positive interactions, to have people. It can be really fun. Even especially if you're working in a crowded bathroom and the plumber's there and the electrician's there and the tile guy's there and the carpenter's there, it can be a nightmare or it can be funny. Like, hey guys, anybody, can you hand me that? And should I get some more people in here? And is it warm enough in here? You know what I mean? Like, you can have fun with it or you can be miserable, but either way, the work needs to get done. So
I think that's a sign when you're on a team and there's a high level of competency, when there's a little bit of time just to joke around a little bit. And I think it's also, yes, it's a good sign. And if you've ever had a truly working class job, you know it's necessary to kind of get through the day. And I like that about Better Builds. It's like part of your mission is hard baked in there. And it can be carried through that attitude of like, we have a job, but we're going to make it fun and we're going to make it great.
you have to. You spend so much of your life doing it. I think the main question that everybody would probably be dying to know is, what should it cost? What do you think a pre-construction should cost? What should the framework for that pricing be? You know?
Oh man.
I'm sure this is the one that everybody wants the answer to.
I was going to say that I think, again, always dependent on project scope.
Of course.
And who's involved.
There's got to be guidelines, though.
Right.
Find somebody you trust.
Yep.
Somebody who's got a proven record, maybe that has some good recommendations they can offer you. And then oftentimes, historically, architects used to work for almost 15%, as standard 15% of construction costs. Well, what are construction costs? Well, we don't know yet, so there's sort of this, but that's a reason to bring everybody together early on. Now architects don't, that 15% doesn't exist anymore unless it's a highly artistic sort of highly crafted high-end project. But it's, I think, depending on the quality of the professional you're hiring, many professionals are asking for approximately $200 an hour. Well, if you're only spending $200 or $400 for a couple of hours of expertise time at the very beginning, you can save a lot of money later on if they have done their job problem seeking and then problem solving. So it's a good investment.
I would agree with that. I was wondering if you preferred to work on a percentage basis, on a flat fee, if you preferred to bid the particular project, if you liked hourly, from my perspective, it's almost always hourly. Like I will prescribe an amount of time for pre-construction, but I'm not sitting down doing drawings. Like my process in a given pre-construction can be so different from a bathroom remodel to a kitchen to a siding project, right? Because I am allotting some time when I do what I would consider not a pre-construction, but I am allotting time for that, right? For those selections and stuff. So I'd be curious if you guys have some good experiences or a preference, like when a client comes to you and says, what's this gonna cost?
Yeah.
How you like to set that up.
For me, I think, again, it depends on the scale of project. Sometimes it makes sense to do hourly. If it's a small scope, let's just do it hourly, maybe put a cap on a number, say once we hit that number, we can talk and see how this process is going for you. I've had some great mentors over the years who have shared their advice, and a method I'm working towards is a cost per square foot per project. This is so that way we're not, I know sometimes with the percent cost of construction, who's setting the cost of construction, there's sometimes a little bit of a misguided, well, is the architect going to draw something more expensive so they get more? Or is it now the architect's done a lot more work and we need to pull scope back, so now the architect hasn't, is it a fair process either way, where the price per square foot kind of builds that in so that there's trust and there's an understanding across the line of what something should cost.
That's good. It does kind of unify everyone, set everybody up for sort of a rising tide floats all boats, rather than competition. Yeah. Or mutually assured destruction.
Right.
I've always looked at that. Of course, as a builder, I'm only a few years in, but I would like to get to a better understanding of square foot costs. But it's very difficult with the amount of different size projects we're currently doing to sort of even collect enough data to feel comfortable to say, like, I think it's this. I can give a range. I can walk into a room and get a pretty good sense of like what a client might want to do and what it might cost and whatever.
And what's the level of finish as well? Are we coming in with custom are we going with premium custom cabinetry, or are we getting something more stock standard that fits a certain budget? So I think those different tiers as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you, square foot for you.
I like that idea a lot. And then it's important for the professional to break down the costs for the client. So a lot of an architect's fee structure will be based on the same phase as you mentioned with a schematic design. 20% of the total fee expense goes to that, or 20% for DD, design development. And some architects are now providing up to 20% of their service fees on construction administration, which again is just working closely right there on site with the builder.
I've got some goals. I'd like to get to the point where I could name a fee or a square footage, I think, for a pre-construction. But I think I'm going to need a couple more years of experience and enough projects under my belt as the builder, not just as a carpenter, to feel comfortable to name that.
Well, and to be able to account for, as time goes on, cost of building materials rise as well. So it's kind of staying up to date with those different costs as well.
That was pretty extensive, I would say, guys. I feel like people hopefully we've answered some of the questions, like, should we do a pre-construction, why? I think in summary, or as sort of like some takeaways, a couple of things that stood out to me would be, of course, I like this, that the builder should be involved, or really as much of the team as possible should be involved in a pre-construction as early as possible. Does my project need a pre-construction? I kind of like that you guys pushed back and said, I think most projects do, even if it's an hour or two of a professional's opinion. I think that's a great perspective that I'm gonna be thinking about, because I haven't thought about it that way. I've just been focused on, like, what can I fit into this client's named budget, whether it's realistic or not, right? Obviously, you push back when you need to. Do you guys have any takeaways?
Pre-con is design, and we're strong believers and advocates for good design and better builds.
Yeah. I think when you start a project, everyone has their job. This is our job. This is what we're trained to do. We're trained to ask the right questions. So if you ask those questions early on, and if you, again, trust a professional's advice, will have a successful project down the track.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, Paul, you were the one that used the language of the goal. I think that should be the takeaway. Get the right team in place, get them together as soon as possible, and get that shared common goal, and build that trust with that client, so that you can finish a project that everyone feels like is a win, that they will talk about for years, right? It could become the centerpiece of a home, or someone's way that they live their life could fundamentally be altered because of the work that we do as a team. I think that's really good.
And find people who enjoy working together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great takeaway. Hey, on that note, cheers. Come on, Paul, get in here. Give us one of those.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking a little time and chatting about pre-constructions with us today, guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
A pleasure.
Always nice to see you too.
Let's do it again.
Okay.
We'll figure out something else to talk about, I'm sure.
There'll be another project for sure. Yeah.
Last thing, your name is?
My name is Elizabeth Stasinski, and I'm an interior designer.
And your company is?
Studio Youngest.
My name is Paul Carlson. I'm an architect with 20 years of residential specialization, and it's good to be here.
Thanks for spending some time with us today. We appreciate it. Hopefully we've answered some of the question of what's a pre-construction and why. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment, and we'll see you on the next one.